What we are going to talk about today is how to get the most years of service life out of your rechargeable batteries for your cordless mower, specifically the Ego. However, the same principles do apply to other brands and manufacturers. It seems there is a lack of instruction by these manufacturers to tell you how you should treat these batteries. And then somebody buys one of these mowers and they do what's just logical, which is charge the battery 100%, and then you recharge it when the battery dies. The battery only lasts a few years, and then they're stuck with either purchasing a new battery, which is very expensive, or just getting rid of all of it and going back to gas, which is probably what they used prior to purchasing this. So hopefully this will shed some light on what needs to be done to get 10 years or more out of these batteries and not run into any bad surprises. So the first rule is do not run the battery all the way down. That is to the point where the mower stops working. This damages the battery. It damages all rechargeable batteries. May it be the lead acid crank battery in your car, a lead acid deep cyclamen ring battery, or those little AA nickel metal hydrate. Some of these batteries are more tolerant to run them all the way down, but I can assure you the lithium ion battery does not like it, and you have damaged it if you get it down to this point. The amount of damage depends on how long it stays in this fully discharged state. So if you accidentally do this, you need to get it onto the charger immediately. Taking the battery and storing it at this fully discharged state for an extended period, weeks, will surely ruin it. If it does recharge to any extent after that, its maximum capacity, that is the amount of energy it will now hold, will be greatly diminished. Don't worry if the battery is hot when you take it off the mower and put it on the charger. It has temperature sensors in there that will dictate when it applies power back into the battery. If it's too hot, it will wait until it cools down. If it's too cold, perhaps the mower was or the battery was sitting outside during a winter day, it will gradually apply power until the battery is back up into its operating range before it really ramps up the current on recharging the battery. Therefore, it may take longer on the charger. As you are using the mower, keep an eye on the battery indicator. That's that little LED lights on the face of the battery. Once it gets to the last light when you're using it, you need to stop using the mower, take that battery out, and get it onto the charger. If that means you have to wait for it to recharge to finish mowing the lawn, that's what needs to be done. Or you could purchase a second battery and keep on going while the first one's recharging. If that seems like too much money, then don't get into this. Because if you don't, you run it below 20% regularly or all the way down, these batteries are not going to last. And you're setting yourself up for disappointment to when they only last 2 to 3 years or shorter, and you're faced with either ponying up the money to buy another one or abandoning the whole system and going back to gas. When you recharge these batteries, don't charge up to 100%. Charge it to around 80%. And how you can tell it's there is on the lights. When that last light at the top of the range is flashing, let it charge there for about 5 to 10 minutes and then take it off. You can start to surmise how much time that is from one bar to the next, and you can simply set a timer on your phone as you go about your business and then come back and check it when your alarm goes off on your phone. Otherwise, you get distracted with other things, you're going to simply forget. If you do charge it to 100%, you need to use it. Put it in the mower and get going. Don't store it. storing the battery for extended periods of time will shorten its life. In fact, the battery has a built-in timer, and I think it's around 60 days. If it's sitting above 50%, it will start to discharge itself. You'll see the LED lights come on, and it'll start to energize a resistor on its control board to slowly discharge that battery until it gets down to 50%. And 50%, which is the next topic here of keeping good life with these batteries, is where these things should be stored at when you're not using them. When you're done mowing, charge them back up to 50%. If you have more than 50%, not a big deal. But that is the sweet spot where to store them. Definitely don't store them fully charged. And don't store them where they're 20% or less. Recharge them to 50%. When you store these batteries, store them in climate control. Don't store them out in the shed where it gets to be 140 degrees in the direct sunlight, or in a job box or toolbox on the back of the pickup truck or inside of a vehicle where it can be at 160 degrees Fahrenheit with the windows rolled up and in direct sunlight. That will definitely age those batteries in a rapid manner. Also, it's not the best thing to store them in really extreme temperatures below zero as it gets up in the northern part of the United States. So again, store them inside the house, 50% in climate controlled area. Where I use this mower down in Texas, the direct sunlight, it gets really hot. All right, and so Ego has this window here on top of the mower, and they think that looks fancy, but really it acts kind of like a greenhouse. So what I do is I put aluminum reflective tape on that during the summer, and I keep just enough off to where I can see the indicator lights on the battery while I'm mowing. And during the winter months, when I bring it back out in, say, December to bag up the leaves, and sometimes it's 30, 35 degrees outside, we'll remove that tape, because a little bit of light in there, it's not just a bad thing to help keep that battery up in the operating temperature. So again, don't store the battery in extreme temperatures, and when you're taking a break from the mower, don't leave the mower out in the sun. Go push it in the shade, or put it back in the garage or wherever when you're not using it. You have to decide if this mower is going to be right for you by the number of batteries you buy for it. I've only bought one extra battery for it. These other batteries came with a tools. There's a blower, a weed eater, and the battery that came with the mower, this 300 watt hour or this 6 amp hour, is plenty for my needs. But if you had a larger lawn, you may have to buy another one of those. And another one of those is, heck, around $300 and something. So you decide if it's worth it to you. If it's not, or following any of these rules, this seems like too much inconvenience, then don't get into this. You're setting yourself up for disappointment. But if you're all right with the cost of maybe having to get an extra battery for a much larger yard, and you're willing to follow these rules, then this could be a good thing for you. I'd say the advantages of this mower: you do not have to wear hearing protection. It's very quiet. There's no fumes to breathe. There's no leaky gas cans that go take down to the gas station, fill up, and put in the back of your trunk. It seems like they're all designed to leak except for perhaps the expensive metal cans. You're not having to store that gasoline in your garage where bad things could happen. If a fire broke out in the garage, it spread to that gas can, and you're going to have a really bad problem at that point. There are no spark plugs. There's no air filters. There's virtually no maintenance except perhaps sharpening the blade on occasion and paying attention to how you treat these batteries. All your maintenance concerns are rolled up into that singular thing. That is the trade-off. One other thing is worth mentioning. It's not as important. There are two chargers here. They look identical, but one came with the mower and one came with a blower. The one that came with the mower is a 300 watt charger. The one that came with the blower is 200 watts. And either one of these chargers will charge any of these batteries here, but if you can, if it's not too much of an inconvenience, try to use the slower charger. charging the battery at a slightly slower rate, that is 200 watts, in comparison to the capacity of these batteries, they're a little more comfortable with taking that rate of charge. That is, you'll eke out just a little more service life, total years of service life, if you use the slower charger more frequently than the fast charger. Other than that, there's other little things you can do to get a little more life out of these, but those are the major things. The major things that are going to make the biggest difference. So that said, only you can decide what's right for your application. I hope this was helpful. Leave a question or comment if needed, and happy mowing.